How's it going, Andrew?
What's going on, Matt?
Not much, not much. I feel like I'm moving into a different life phase.
Huh. So as I'm moving into trying smoking for the first time, not smoking ciggies, I'm trying to quit that. Smoking meats. You're moving
Yeah.
into another life phase as well.
Well, I mean, it's not like smoking meats is going to go away, but I started out as like a Harley rider, and then I still do that, and then you know, smoking meats got added in there. They always say you're either going to become a World War II history buff or a meat smoker, right?
Or a beer brewer
Or a beer brewer.
after the age of 30.
Um, It seems like I'm moving into the 40s where I'm going to be a meat smoker, a Harley rider, and a gardener.
Part of the ship, part of the crew, part of the ship, part of the crew. Hey, we'll have something to talk about. I fucking force
Right.
gardening conversations on everyone these days.
I feel like I do too. It's so sad.
So you know what's funny? So today I went to lodge um, for our annual fire inspection, right? So I go to lodge to meet with the woman who's doing the fire inspection. She comes in, goes fine. Um, everything's fine. There's one emergency light that we just got to switch battery on. No big deal. Fix that in a week. Pass, right? And we get outside, and then she's like, "Man, it looks like rain." I go, "My plants would love that." And she's like, "My plants would love that too." And that's a consent for a gardening conversation kind of moment. Like, your plants would love it as well. What plants you got? Next thing you know, I'm out there talking with the city inspector for 35 minutes about planting, and she's asking for tips, what to do with her creeping Charlie, what I've been doing, like plant talk. And I was like, so
Ooh,
a lot of
what do
people,
you do with creeping Charlie? That's always a pain in the butt in the grass.
I'm overrun. Same with her. I came into this house with what would say I'd say 75% of the yard is Charlie. So I've tried
Ooh,
spraying it.
I'm not that bad, but
So I
yeah.
my philosophy on how I like to garden, which there will be, naturalists and pure environmentalists who don't love my method, but they like it over some other methods, I'm sure. I put in competition that is naturalized but not native, so whatever, they can deal with it. I put in clover to create a competitive environment, and clover releases nitrates when it decomposes, which can make all of their plants a little bit more pepped up. And Creeping Charlie really thrives in crappy environments where everything is struggling with the crappiness, and it's like, and I'm great. And so I just try to create a little more competition, a little more diversity to see if it'll start to reduce how easy it thrives, right? That's my current strategy.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I can tell you that at least way back in the day when I worked at Stein's Gardens and Gifts, there was a specialized spray that was designed to kill specifically creeping Charlie.
So I have that used that spray. That spray will target, I think, most dicots, if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly. But that'll kill my clover too, which I guess could be fine. I can always
Right.
sow some more if I killed it. But the thing is Creeping Charlie will get like a waxy cover. So when you have to spray it is, I think, either right after the first frost or right after they push their first flowers, is what my uncle told me, is when they're like the weakest.
Uh,
And if you spray them in between, it just is a challenge. I
Interesting.
mad respect
Interesting.
Creeping Charlie if I didn't hate him so much. I respect how tough they are.
I don't have a ton of it in my yard, but I do have some. But I'm also one of those people that just kind of lets the yard go. It's gonna do what it's gonna do as long as it's holding the dirt in. As long as there's something there with the root system holding the dirt in place, it's fine.
So I take kind of a softer perspective on the Creeping Charlie, where I used to be like kind of just like, this is invasive, I hate it. I was reading this book. It was about animism, and the author was talking about how saying something is invasive is kind of a colonialist mindset. You're kind of creating something that was never really there. So the question is, when you're looking at your yard, is it problematic or not? Like, is it causing problems, or is it just in a place that you're not using for anything anyways? And kind of
Right.
saying, don't just hate it just because you were told you should. Like, figure out, like, is it
Uh,
actually destabilizing things? Is it causing issues? And then you can address it.
Well, yeah, and that's like when you look at like buckthorn or creeping bellflower, they actually cause issues because they will choke out everything else.
And unlike Creeping Charlie, which is a little bit of a competitive a nuisance and it spreads viciously, those ones not only spread viciously, but they can completely consume landscapes. Those are kill on site plants, to be honest. But
Right. Yep, exactly. One last thing before we get into our episode. So, my mother-in-law and her mother came to pick up Zoe on Saturday so I could enjoy some time on the motorcycle while Olivia was working at the rally. And they my mother-in-law comes in the house and she goes, "I was just saying to Nancy that, you know, it's amazing how fast weeds pop up in fresh dirt." And then I realized those were the plants you bought and planted.
to be fair, that generation literally only plants begonias, begonias and hostas. If it's not a begonia, a hosta, or a peony, they don't know what it is.
Im- Impatience, bleeding hearts. I do love my bleeding hearts, though.
I like
Those
a
are
good bleeding
very cool
heart too.
plants.
That generation was really big on the classic annuals that you'll see, the potted plant generation, where it's like the hanging beds, those
Right.
all those same little annuals, those
Yeah.
pretty 1 year planties. Yeah, they're not used to our
Yep.
sophisticated palate.
Native perennials that, yeah,
I will say
once you get them established,
they're not always the prettiest, but they have their own type of beauty if you have the eye for it. And if
they
you put them with
do. They
you got
do.
to put them with the right plants too. I mean, I think they're all pretty.
I also, right. I also learned that I have to, after my Culver's root is done blooming for the first time, I should cut it because it will actually like cut it down to its basal growth because it will promote more foliage and a second bloom.
So it has a
So
dead wood, so you basically deadhead it down to the ground after a bloom.
no, not all the way down to the ground, just underneath whatever's done blooming.
Oh, so just a standard deadhead. You go down to the next pair of leaves
Yeah.
from the top. No, heck yeah.
Yep.
Honestly, with
Yeah.
almost any
So,
flowering plant, it's a good idea once the flower head dies. Go down one thing. And pretty good rule of thumb for most plants.
all right. Well, I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing us talk about gardening. So, or maybe they're not. Maybe we should start a gardening podcast on the side.
What if we just slowly transition this Masonic podcast into a gardening podcast without any explanation? Just it gets longer and longer each time until masonry's phased
Time
out and
for
everyone goes,
gardening
wait,
with Matt and Andrew.
wait, was it always time for gardening with Matt and Andrew? I feel like I'm tripping out, man. I thought it was something else.
Now that'll hit the time for gardening intro. Let's go.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for fellowship with Matt and Andrew. Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
You know, the good news is, I think today's topic, it almost immediately, some of this topic already has to do with gardening. So, like, we're golden when I'm looking at what's on this article. So, for our listeners today, I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about today. And one of my favorite poems came to mind. I'm sure many of you have heard it, but I listen to it probably once a year. I send this poem to new MMs. Everyone that I get, I send and say, this is what masonry is about. I kind of use this poem to ground myself and remember what masonry is. And I think this poem captures it. And it's a poem by Joseph Fort Newton.
Oh yeah, I started reading The Builders at some point, and then I got sidetracked with my move, and I have not finished it yet.
Yeah, so Joseph Fort Newton is one of my favorite Masonic authors. He's a U.S. Mason. He was born in Texas in the 1800s, late 1800s, like 1876. Died in the 1950s, and he was a Baptist minister. Then he became an Episcopal priest, and he did a bunch of writing on various topics, including masonry in his book, The Builders, which was a book that, from my understanding, was used to give to new MMs in his jurisdiction for a while. It's a really good read, but the capstone or the final piece of it is this poem that we're going to review today.
Sweet.
So I kind of want to treat this. I've almost had this memorized. I've listened to it so much. But I kind of want to treat it like we did when we were doing our charges. So we're going to take it piece by piece. I'm going to read the whole thing. It's not terribly long, so no one get afraid and run. And then we'll break it into its pieces and just shoot the breeze about our feelings on
it. Sounds good.
Got to clear my voice for my poem voice.
Oh boy, we're gonna get some beat poetry from Andrew.
Gotta be serious. All right. So this poem's called "When Is a Man a Mason?" I'm gonna take my Zen out for this one.
Wait a minute. I thought you were off the Zen.
It's technically Teza. It's fake Zen, but still in my lip.
All right.
Fair. All right. So it's titled, "When is a Man a Mason?" When is a man a mason? When he can look over the rivers, the hills, and the far horizons with a profound sense of his own littleness in the vast scheme of things, and yet have faith, hope, and courage, which is the root of every virtue. When he knows that down in his heart every man is as noble as himself, and seeks to know, to forgive, and to love his fellow men. When he knows how to sympathize with men in their sorrows, yea, even in their sins, knowing that each man fights a hard fight against many odds. When he has learned how to make friends and to keep them, and above all, how to keep friends with himself. When he loves flowers, can hunt birds without a gun, and feels the thrill of an old forgotten joy when he hears the laugh of a little child. When he can be happy and high-minded amid the meaner drudgeries of life. When star-crowned trees and the glint of sunlight on flowing waters subdue him like a thought of one much loved and long dead. When no voices of distress reach his ears in vain, and no hand seeks his aid without response. When he finds good in every faith that helps any man to lay hold of divine things, and sees majestic meanings in life, whatever the name of that faith may be. When he can look into a wayside puddle and see something beyond sin. I think it's beyond mud. That's a typo. When he knows how to pray, how to love, and how to hope. When he has kept faith with himself and with his fellow men, with his God, and in his hand a sword for evil, and in his heart a bit of a song. Glad to live, but not afraid to die. Such a man has found the only real secrets of masonry, and the one which it is trying to give to all the world. You have a clap sound. Is it bad that I knew that was a typo because I have this thing darn near memorized, and I just read that and went, that's not the line. I've definitely read this too much.
You know what? We can get to it later, but yeah. I think whoever typed that up, I don't think the substitution of that word is actually a terrible thing in that line.
Well, I found the original. I just pulled up The Builders on Kindle, and it is when he can look in a wayside puddle and see something beyond mud. And it skipped. It skipped a line. Oh, there's there. So it actually says when he can look into a wayside puddle and see something beyond mud, and into the face of the most forlorn fellow mortal, and see something beyond sin. So they deleted that sin to put sin on the end.
There we go. Somebody was trying to do it from memory on this version. Yeah.
Well, I switched it over. I should have pulled up a Kindle one to begin with. But yeah, we're going to go through it all anyways. But yeah, so what are your thoughts just as a cursory of that poem? I know you probably heard it before because I keep spamming people with it.
I have heard it before. I think it's very powerful, honestly. It really touches like touches at your soul and the tenets of Freemasonry and reminds us of what we're striving to be, right?
I think for me, that's all true. I think that sometimes I find that in the business of the lodge and the running around and doing what Masons do all the time, I feel like I can get distracted about what it is at its heart and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to cultivate. And I'll come back to this poem usually on Joseph Fort Newton's birthday, which is in 6 days. I have a reminder on my phone. He was born on July 21st, and I will listen to it that day. I just have a reminder on my phone. So once a year, I'll listen to it again and like remember what we're here to do, right? Or what a Mason should be, because I
Right.
think he poetically captures it so well.
Oh yeah. I would agree. I mean, it it touches on everything that should be important to us, right?
But that can get lost in just the
So,
sauce of being a Mason. But it's like at its heart, it
yeah.
captures it. So let's start
Yeah.
with the first line and see what our takeaways are. So it says, "When is a man a Mason? When he can look out over the rivers, the hills, and the far horizons with a profound sense of his own littleness in the vast scheme of things, yet have faith, hope, and courage, which is the root of every virtue."
Well, and I've always appreciated like going back to when I was a kid, like going up north and going hunting and stuff and getting away from the city and being able to stare out at like all the stars, right? Just all the stars, all the land around you, everything else, and going, man, I am so small compared to all of this, and that was a sense that I had from early, fairly early on. But yeah, the faith, hope, and courage part of it is is definitely like awesome. Like that's something that you like learned as you like grew up. Like, yeah, I might be this tiny part of everything, but what I can do with my life is still important, right? And it still matters, and I still need to do the right thing.
I agree, and I think what's just kind of deep about it, onto that same point, is how does one reconcile not only have the awareness to be in awe of how big the universe is, right? To be actually in tune enough to go, wow, I am not the center of the universe, right? So that's kind of referencing to not being selfish or egotistical. Like it's all about me, baby. You know what I mean? So it's like to even recognize, like, I am so small in this thing. But then at the same time, not losing the drive to understand their life still matters, right? To be humble, but also to have faith, hope, and courage, which are the root of every virtue, meaning, faith that it matters, hope that there is a reason to do good because, or it could mean hope in immortality, it can mean a lot of things, and then the courage to do so, to actually have fortitude and actually to try to be a virtuous person. I think this line is a lot to unpack.
Oh, it is. I mean, if you want to go down a crazy rabbit hole with it, all you have to think about is like that whole like butterfly effect, like that exists in uh, chaos theory, in where butterfly flaps its wings in New York and it can cause a hurricane somewhere else, right? Type of deal, and it's like as ing I can't speak right now as ings as small as I might be, because we're gonna try to avoid that word. What what I do matters, and it can have a bigger impact, right? Like acts of selflessness and things like that can truly change somebody else's life. And if we strive to be virtuous and set the example and be as selfless as we possibly can be, that will have a profound impact on the world, if not the universe.
And I think it's also him directly referencing, knowing that was a preacher in 2 different churches. Corinthians 13:13. I was like, this sounds familiar. The line in that thing says, "And now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." And I think that's referenced in. We use charity to mean love as well, agape, and similar things
Right.
in Masonic terms. And we always like to say that charity is the greatest because it echoes into eternity, like you're saying, like the butterfly effect. You can do one nice thing, just maybe what's a small gesture for you that gives that guy a better day. So maybe he makes a slightly different choice, and that choice leads him down a completely different path of other choices. Like you could have just nudged him or whoever into a different direction, and so you just never know. And so I think, yeah, it is
Right.
powerful.
Extraordinarily.
So then the next line. So when I turn to share my screen, it makes a bunch of noise, and I'm sure it's being recorded, which is annoying. So I'm not going to keep sharing it. So
no, that's all right. I have the poem up as well, so we're good.
perfect. So the
next
second line, yeah, you can read it.
When he knows that down in his heart, every man is as noble as himself, and seeks to know, to forgive, and to love his fellow men.
Okay, we got to switch articles because that one by Internet Lodge is just not correct.
All right.
Hold on, I'm gonna ping you. I'm looking at the one that's in the Kindle, and I'm like, Jesus, what the heck? They must have done it from memory. So the second line is, when he knows that down in his heart every man is as noble, as vile, as divine, as diabolic, and as lonely as himself, and seeks to know, to forgive, and to love his fellow man. That's
All right,
better.
well, yeah,
that's
that
better.
makes-
That's
that
better.
makes that makes that line hella more impactful.
I kept, when I was reading that one, of course I pull it up and I just went, oh, this has got to be it, because I read the first sentence. That's why you got to keep reading. But I
Right.
had it almost memorized, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, man. But yeah, so that line's crazy. When he knows
That
down
line
in his
is-
heart, every man is as noble, as vile, as divine, as diabolic, and as lonely as himself, but still seeks to know, to forgive, and to love his fellow man. Wowza.
Right. Well, and you can tie all of the end things back to part of the beginning, right? Seeks to know would be probably trying to understand the divine, right? To forgive would be because of the vile and diabolical part. And most people that were like nobles were lonely, so as lonely as himself. So that's where the love part comes in, right? Is that you're trying to express that love, hopefully, to other people, especially from a position of authority.
Well, so during this time period, noble just means not the nobility. Noble means a good guy.
Right.
So he goes.
Yeah,
he knows
right,
that
fair.
every man
Right.
is a mixture. This is the black and white tile. This is 100% what he's describing, the duality. Every man is as noble and as vile, as divine and as diabolic, and as lonely as himself. Meaning we're all a mixture. No one's perfect, right? But then you as a Mason will take the time to actually get to know the person, to see who he is, right? What virtues are within that mess, just like you are. And then to forgive his failings, but then to love him for his worth. And so, like, it is the walking across, the acknowledgement that we're walking across the checkered floor where we're as noble, as vile, as divine, and as diabolic as everyone else. We all have these potentials within us, and we all walk through it and have to make those decisions.
Right. Well, and I forgot the time period in which this was written for a minute there. But you know, the other thing about that is it does kind of harken back to what we were just talking about with like the butterfly effect, because you know, one different choice in your life could lead you down the more diabolical, lonely, vile road, right? And at some point we've all made probably multiple decisions to not go down that road. However, that doesn't mean that we haven't considered it.
And I mean, at the same time,
and that is not in us.
even the best of men has had moments where they've slipped up and done something vile, or they've been
Right.
jealous and done something diabolic. Maybe not all the time, right? Of course, like if a good man wouldn't do it all the time,
Right.
but everybody has had those moments where you slip and you act uncharacteristic. And not
Right.
to not to
Well,
judge him, but to know him, to forgive him, and to love his fellow man is kind of a powerful thing to how to combat that.
right. Well, because none of us are perfect. Well, we're all fallible, right? We're all imperfect ashlers. So to understand that you're not perfect, nor should you expect anybody else to be perfect, is, and you need to love people and forgive them even for their imperfections, right?
And I think the next line is kind of actually tied to this one too. So I'm just going to read it now because I think it ties together as kind of a central piece. When he knows how to sympathize with men in their sorrows, yea, even in their sins, knowing that each man fights a hard fight against many odds. I think that kind of tailors into the same thing where it's like, yeah, he can also not only love them, he can sympathize, and even when it's where they've been naughty, understand that life's
Right.
hard sometimes and people make bad decisions and in this fight against
Right.
many odds.
Well, we're all presented with many temptations every day, right? And it's always a struggle to uh, make the right choice. Making the right choice 95% of the time is not the easy choice to make. I think most people could agree with that. Um,
And life can
sometimes,
throw some such bad stuff at people that people can be in such bad places that they can do uncharacteristic things because, sometimes the world gets thrown down someone and they don't act like themselves. It's easy to be good when things are good. And when things get tough, you'll see people can have moments where they are not always the best.
right. Well, and I think it's interesting because it harkens in different words towards something that has been kind of a theme of modern culture, which is, you know, be compassionate with everyone because you don't know what battles they're fighting. You don't know what they've been through that day, right?
Well, and it's also kind of a pushback to some extent to portions of cancel culture, which where it goes, "Hey, we just found something. He did something bad. There's no forgiving this man and or woman." Let's say like not the. Let's talk about where the cancel isn't something insane, where it's like more mild and like, oh, I guess he did a naughty. Where the same time, where like be compassionate. You can't have the compassion to look at a guy who made a mistake and go, "Hey, maybe he's a monster. Maybe this was a mistake." In some cases, there's some cases where the cancel, you're like, yeah, Jesus. But in other times, you know what I mean? Like the smaller
Right,
ones.
right. No,
Like someone
I'm
says
with
something
you
dumb
100%.
and you're like, oh, he said something dumb. Okay. Like maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he didn't get a lot of sleep and he's mouthed off. Like it might not represent him as a person. And maybe he needs to learn. Right. And so to be able to
Or
forgive
maybe
someone.
or maybe he just viewed it from a different perspective, like, and then he was like, oh no, you're right, my perspective on that was wrong, right, and I shouldn't have been doing that. So
Yeah, because a man is fighting many hard battles against many odds, and you never know. Sometimes people don't learn and they get what they get, but I think being able to sympathize with someone who's made a mistake and understand that people can be redeemed is an important quality and a virtuous person. Instead of just being like, you said one thing, you did one thing, you made a mistake, you're permanently naughty. And you're
right,
like, but then that doesn't give an opportunity for redemption.
but this could also harken back to biblical references with the whole let he who is without sin cast the first stone,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, it's an exact line. Yea, even in their sins, knowing that each man fights a hard battle against many odds. And that's what you see in the sentence above, too. It's like, hey, everyone's just like you. They're just as noble and as vile. So sympathize where you might be having a good time and be being very virtuous, but someone might slip. Sympathize because no one feels good when they're doing, most people, let's say that. Most people don't feel good when they're doing bad stuff. Some people do.
Right,
Most don't.
right.
And be able to sympathize
Yep.
and lead them back to good behavior. I mean, that's I think something that's incumbent on all Masons, especially amongst one another.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, sympathy is sympathy and compassion are two key components of our craft, right?
You want to read the next line for us? Starts with when he has learned how. Well, a lot of these start
Oh
with
yeah.
that, something like that.
No, I got it. When he has learned how to make friends and keep them, and above all, how to keep friends with himself. Ooh,
Ooh.
that one's heavy. That one's heavy. I mean, when he has learned how to make friends and keep them, that's just a matter of establishing like healthy relationships with boundaries and the ability to be honest with each other and things like that, right? But keep friends with himself.
I feel like this
That's
line was a trick. Like, I think it was a setup because he starts with, like,
I
make friends and keep them. And you're like, oh, everyone can recognize that, but understand it's important. And then he's like, but are you keeping friends with yourself too? And you're like, oh,
right,
shit.
right, exactly. Because it's like that's that's the hard one. That that is the that is. I'm trying to think how I want to phrase it. I don't know. That's the hard one, right? Like, can you be can you be happy with yourself every day? Are you proud of yourself? Are you encouraging yourself? Are you getting down on the dumps about yourself and all that kind of stuff? And you know, I think, and you would probably agree with me, parenting teaches you a lot about that because over the last almost 4 years now, um, there's been a lot of nights where I've gone to bed going, "Ooh, I could have done better," and beating myself up about it. Right?
Yeah, being like, man, that could have gone different. You're like, I wish it had, but what are you gonna
Right.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think this is a setup because it basically the way it makes your mind think is when he has learned how to make friends and keep them. You start to think about how you're keeping friends. Like, what do? You're kind, you're encouraging, you're there for them. You step up, you're
Right.
willing to go to the extra mile, and then it goes and above all, keep friends with himself. So it combines them. It goes, are you doing the same type of techniques that you're using on your friends? Are you giving that to yourself? And it almost is like
Right.
a guiding light saying, treat yourself like you would treat your buddy. Like if you were down, you wouldn't be like, "Yeah, you stupid piece of shit. You deserve that." You wouldn't talk negatively to your buddy if
Right.
he's down. So why do you talk to yourself like that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Why don't you have
And
a more
most of us
positive
do.
attitude? It's too
Right.
easy to be
And
mean to
most of us
yourself.
right. Most of us are mean to ourselves, right? I mean, that's a known problem amongst people is that, we slip up and we beat ourselves down over it rather than going, "Hey, you screwed up. Do better next time," right? Which is what we would tell our friend. "Hey, you screwed up. Don't do it again and do better next time," right? But instead we go, "You stupid piece of," you know,
Shit.
and right, and like just you berate yourself, and it's honestly it's not healthy. Like
It's
this,
counterproductive.
right? This line is, oof, that one hits hard.
I think in our episode where we were talking about habits, remember like the bad habits for the chip off the stone, negative self talk was one of the highest ones on that list.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah,
And
it was.
and when you look at lots of various practices, meditation practices and stuff, yoga practices, a lot of it almost immediately is like negative self talk. Got to cut it, man. Like it is fucking you up, fudging you
Right.
up. Be like,
You've dropped a couple of F bombs this episode, Andrew.
see what happens. My problem is the more I like talking about something. And I like this poem. The more I swear candidly, and so it's just becoming problematic. But I think we're still almost. I think we're PG-13 now, but I think we're safely in PG-13, so we're gonna just tone her down. But so, but like, it's an important point to be like, are you doing the same amount of effort you do to keep and make friends as you do to keep friends with yourself? And I think that's a big one to unpack. And I think the only way you can be a good, not the only way, one thing that helps support a man being a good man is when they are treating themselves with kindness, because that makes it easier to treat others with kindness too. When you're not even using negative self-talk on yourself, it becomes no longer a nature of yours.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, yeah, if I'm not berating myself, I tend to be a lot nicer to other people. when they screw up. So
Yeah, because you're out of practice. All right, I'm going to use the next line. This is the one I've been waiting for. This is the gardening line. When he loves flowers, can hunt birds without a gun, and feels the thrill of an old forgotten joy when he hears the laugh of a little child.
well, I mean, let's just start at the beginning. What's not to love about flowers? Let's start there. I mean, they're great. They bring beauty to the world. They bring fragrance. They're phenomenal, right? I mean, you can even extend that beyond flowers. Like, who doesn't enjoy a good tree, like a nice 50-year-old tree with a giant
Oh,
trunk
no,
on
the
it,
the tree's coming in 2 lines. Don't worry, we got the tree coming up.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We
uh,
do.
I think that this sentence is hearkening not only to a love of the simple things, like that's what he's drawing I think a comparison to. Is says like he loves flowers, which is the classic. Like he likes being outdoors and seeing beauty in nature. Can hunt birds without a gun, meaning like he
Do you
enjoys
think
just
he's do you think he's referencing bird watching or like
photography.
trying trying well or that
I don't think they
well
had this in the
photography
time
wouldn't have been
period
that
that he needed it. I think he means bird watching, meaning he can
yeah
go out in the
all
woods
right
and seek out without having to go into the woods to seek beauty without having to get game from
destroy
it.
it
Yeah,
right
um, meaning like you love nature so much that you can go and even hunt birds with no need to gain food or to gain thrill. You just like to see them,
well,
and then to
that's what I do the whole time I'm deer hunting.
yeah, hunting birds with no gun. But the deer, on the other hand,
Right.
and feel the thrill of an old forgotten joy when he hears a laugh of a little child, which I think is also harkening back to the simple joys of just like, yeah, that's a little bit of nostalgia, like bringing back like a forgotten
Yeah.
joy. Like he can be put back in the kid's shoes and remember what it was like to laugh when you see something for the first time. I mean, we get that
Well,
as parents. You feel that all the time.
right, the joy, innocence, and the just laughing at something so ridiculous or dumb or whatever, and just the way a kid's laugh sounds, man. Like it draws you in. It makes you want to start laughing. It does bring that back. It brings back the innocence and the joy and everything else, and it lets you see the beauty in dumb things, right?
Well, not even necessarily dumb, but like just the
Right.
joyful attitude too, like that an old forgotten joy. Like you used now you have different types of joy, but a kid can just like walk into a room, see something on the ground, and start laughing hysterically. And you're like, "What is funny about this?" And they just you don't know. It's just
Right.
it's a joy that they're just the kids can be so joyous that it can kind of bring back the feeling that you've lost in your haggard old age, and you're like, "Oh,
Or
I can be happy
even over
too."
like bodily functions, kids will laugh at an inappropriately ripped fart or illy timed burp.
Well, that's
you
not
know?
that's not an old forgotten joy for me. I still laugh at those. But yeah, I think that's just a nice. I think he's setting up with this one to be like, remember, like love of the simple things of being like alive. That's what it's drawing my attention to. Being out in the world and just enjoying the beauty of life.
Yeah.
When he can be happy, the next line is when he can be happy and high minded amid the meaner drudgeries of life.
That's a hard one, right? Like, a lot of us spend a lot of time at a job every week that we don't necessarily enjoy. We have other responsibilities to live up to. Maybe there's a bunch of drama going on somewhere that's taking up some of our time. Yet, at the end of the day, you need to push some of that stuff by the wayside so that you can save your own sanity and still be happy about the life you've built, right?
And and it also talks to like a cultivation of character that you can be joyful and good spirited, even when stuff's boring or unpleasant or lame, like something you don't want to do. If you're able to be, happy or joyous and dignified. You're not complaining and whining and being, oh, woe is me. I don't want to do this today. There's like, oh, well, I got to do it. What's a guy got to do?
Right.
Better get after it.
It's a little bit of the fake it till you make it attitude, right?
Oh, these people who act like this, and I've acted like this occasionally, but I am faking it 100%. I think the fake it till you make it is the start, but I think some people are just like, oh, well, I got to do it today. No reason for me to be mad about it. That's just going to make it worse. Better get to it. But I think that is another virtue for sure. Being able to be positive in a boring situation.
Right, like one of those, like, I don't want to be here, but I'm not going to make it worse by expressing the fact that I don't want to be here. I'm going to make the best of it and still attempt to have a good time or create my own good time, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be a poopy pants.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to piss in somebody else's cereal, right?
Yeah, right. I know. When I was helping my buddy shoveling rock a couple weeks ago, he was all pissy boy about it. And so I was upping my positivity. I was like, come on, man, this is easy. We got this. Let's just get it going. And he's like, you're like a little golden retriever. It makes me feel like I'm having fun somehow. And I was like, see, so like it just takes one. It just takes one golden retriever in the room who's like, come on, man, let's just get after it. Even though in my heart, I was like, oh my God. I was like, ugh.
Right. Yeah, I hear you, because I was attempting to do that potentially unsuccessfully when we were moving 4 yards of topsoil over 4th of July weekend. And I was just kind of like, we're almost there. Just, the pile's gone down so much. Come on. We gotta get this done.
In the back of your mind, you're like, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it.
Look, there's so much dirt and I'm so tired. And then about 7 wheelbarrows from the end, I dropped a wheelbarrow on my big toe.
They stay positive. Stay positive.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's I think this is just a cultivation of virtue. Be a positive person, even when life's lame.
Right.
Do you want to read the next line because you wanted to talk about trees? This is the tree line.
Oh, yeah. When excuse me. When star-crowned trees in the glint of sunlight on flowing waters subdue him like the thought of one much loved and long dead. That's an interesting line because I'm like with him, right? Like I'm like, oh yeah, trees and stars and sunlight on like a river.
He flips it on you again.
I'm like, oh, I'm good. Yeah, that always puts me at peace. All of those things put me at peace. And then you're like the thought of one much loved and long dead. Wait a minute, that's going to make me sad. Hold up, what are we doing here?
It's interesting because it sounds to me, this one's hard for me to unpack, that he's evoking like majesty, right? Deep woods, tall trees, flowing rivers. So he's clearly like in like a very natural place. Subdues him, so it means like suddenly he's overwhelmed by the same sensation as remembering one that he loved dearly who's dead. So it's like,
right.
He's so moved it feels like grief. That as if he's touched something like so sacred that it makes him feel like saddened to know that like he's missed this person so much. I'm wondering if this means like the thought that he's being reunited with that person, like it feels like this overwhelming sadness. It's
maybe this is the one line in this whole thing I like just can't connect with him on. He has me for like 3/4 of the line and then he loses me in the last quarter. Like I'm like, I don't understand that like sensation, because like the feeling I get from like being in the woods and stuff like that and the peace and everything that overcomes me is a completely different feeling than when I think about my, 2 dead grandfathers, who were much loved and are long dead and missed dearly. Like, but that's a different range of emotions. And
I'm wondering if we're thinking about it too literally. I'm wondering if he's saying it subdues him like another powerful pain of the heart. like saying, instead of saying like it is, like feels the same sensation as thought one, but like more like it moves them like in a deeper, like kind of a deep solemn awe type of way, like a deep
Oh yeah.
reflection,
Okay.
instead of necessarily being
Yeah.
like, oh, it makes them sad, but makes it be like so deeply that it feels similar to the amount of depth that you would imagine that type of love, but for nature to truly feel like alive inside or something in nature.
Right. No, I could get behind that. Like that that's just that state of like reflection because there has been like those times where I've been like, man, if only Grandpa Conrad could see me now, right? Like
Yeah.
type of deal, like self-reflection type stuff. So maybe that's what he's trying to get at.
Like a
That would
quiet,
make more sense to me.
reflective, and
Yeah.
humbled type of longing too, like a longing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That one's
that
gonna
would
haunt
make
me
sense.
tonight in my sleep. Trying to unpack that one. That's what I love about
Or in
poetry
your
too.
lack of sleep as
Every
it
time
keeps
you
you awake.
every time you read it, you start to be like, what is he trying? That's the thing is poetry is like symbolism, right? So sometimes you can't look at it directly. You have to be like, what is he emotioning to me to try to understand?
Right.
All right, that one's hurt my brain. I'm gonna move to the next one. I'll have to think on that one. When no voice of distress reaches his ears in vain, and no hand seeks his aid without response. Classic.
That one's pretty straightforward, right?
As a Mason, be willing to always be the one who is willing to help, be the helper in the room, and try to find a way
Right.
to help without material injury to yourself or family, right?
Right. Well, and just the whole idea that like, you know, if you hear a cry for help, it's not going to go unnoticed. Even if it's not you that handles it, it's not going to go unnoticed, right? It's gonna make it to the right channels to potentially be able to provide them something. And like, a hand seeking aid without response, you've at least taken the time to say, I can't help you, but I might know somebody who can, or something like that, right? Like you're not just letting it fall on deaf ears or go without any sort of response.
You're going to try to do something, even if it has to be something small or large.
Right.
When he
All right.
finds good, you want to read the next one? This is a good
Yeah,
one.
that's what I was gonna do.
That's a good
You
one.
keep jumping me here.
That's because I'm
When he
excited.
finds
This is a good one.
when he finds good in every faith that helps any man to lay hold of divine things and see majestic meanings in life, whatever the name of that faith may be. I mean, that's pretty much simply saying, hey, as long as this faith helps him be a better person and see the good in the world, what do you care what his faith is?
Yeah, I mean, and this one even, and this is interesting because one thing, this is where like, as me and you both being Catholic boys, this is where that line is where they were like, you said it was good in every faith, incompatible, but this guy was an
Right.
Episcopal priest, and he's saying this. So what's he saying here, right? He's not saying that you follow every single faith. He's saying that you find it good for that person, just like you said. It's like, well, there's good. If a faith is helping people lay hold of divine things and find majestic meaning in life, then it's probably good for that person. And so it is
Right.
a very Masonic perspective to say it's not my business to tell him what faith. If it's good for him and it makes him a better man and it helps him connect with the majesty of life, good for him.
Right, exactly. And it just harkens back to like why does it matter what his personal religious views are as long as the moral principles are the same, right?
As long as it's giving that person fulfillment and positive fulfillment to lay hold of
Right.
divine things and the majestic meanings of
And
life.
making them strive to be better people, right?
Yep.
Type of deal. So, if your faith does that for you, what does it matter to me what faith that is?
Yep. And I mean, I have more of a heretical perspective to begin with, but to me, I'd say, yeah, that is good. I go, if it's causing good for you, then it is a good thing for that person, and I don't need to muck with it. It's not my responsibility
exactly.
to muck around.
Exactly. It's like, and honestly, if you wanna go down a small rabbit hole on it, most of our faith, most of us, the faith that we choose to follow is because it was what was given to us by our family and the knowledge that was passed down through family ties, at least in the beginning. Maybe we've changed that slightly as we got adults, but like, if you go down that line, that person didn't necessarily choose what faith they were, but if it has the positive impact on their life, who are you to judge it?
Yeah. I think it's humbling, especially hearing this coming from a pastor and a priest. He was the Baptist and an Episcopal minister.
Yeah.
And so to hear that from them, which you'd usually expect to hear a more dogmatic line, but he doesn't. He chooses not to because it's showing the power of Masonic principles where he's like, I have my faith and I think it's good and it helps me with things. But I think that any faith that does that for another is good for them too. And so it's a very Masonic, respectful coexist type of thing, being like, my faith's mine, yours is yours. We can still be better men together.
Right. As long as your faith isn't, deal drugs and do crime, we're good.
Which is very rare.
Right.
Yep. As long as it's inspiring you and it's creating majestic meaning. If it's not, it's not good. The next line is, when you can look into a wayside puddle and see something beyond mud, and into the face of the most forlorn fellow mortal and see something beyond sin.
That's a fun one. I mean, I really like that line. Like, just the ability to look beyond what a person has done and see them for what they are, right? Like, if you look at a wayside puddle, yeah, it's going to look muddy and dirty, but that's still water. That's a life sustainer, right? And the sins of a person are the actions of a person, but you can look beyond the actions to see that person for who they are.
Yeah, and the I love the juxtaposition between the mud and the person, because it's basically saying don't judge something by its appearances, right?
Right.
It's saying you don't know, and he's been using that theme in a couple parts throughout this poem. Like, he's like, everyone's all messed up, man. We're all doing our thing. Don't be so judgmental. Be sympathetic and humble, right? And if you think about it, to the same point, when you look at a wayside puddle, if you don't look very closely, that's the thing, to know, right? To know, like, spend a second to look deeper. You might notice it's more than just a dirty puddle. There might be a reflection in it. You know what I mean? There might be light.
Right.
And, sometimes a puddle can look pretty when you might have thought it was ugly, when you just spend time to actually look at it. And same with a forlorn mortal. That's that's somebody who's your rival, right? Your enemy. And being like, don't treat him like he's mud. Like, look closer and you'll see that there's probably potential, or there might be, more to this than meets the eye, and see more than just their bad behavior and see what's behind it, right? It's called look deeper and to be, compassionate.
Well, and, not to excuse anybody's, behavior, but, to look past it and go, what has this person gone through in their life? What kind of situations were they put in that led them to this place?
Why are they acting like this, right? To not just say, oh, he's just a sinner. That's what he is. To look beyond and say, this is probably not who he wants to be, and try to figure out what's going on. Yeah, it doesn't mean forgive. It means just to look closer, because that's where you can find people to redeem. Right,
exactly. That is a really good line. I do really like that one.
It's also, I think, a callback to there's some Zen poems that talk about looking at mud or poop and seeing that that's got some depth to it or something too. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but there's some cool stuff there too.
It's an interest. I mean, although as far as Zen goes, the biggest one I ever got was Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, which was, you know, very fascinating when it came to that, the concepts of like just dealing with the mundane or the shitty situations you sometimes find yourself in, especially at the time period that he wrote it, with, you know, your motorcycle breaking down and roadside repairs and stuff like that. I should really revisit that book because it's been a number of years.
That's a good book to bring to Sturgis. That's a phenomenal.
It would be, except apparently I lent my copy out to somebody and I don't know who has it. So
Amazon.
I have to get another one. Yeah. Yeah. I have other reading to do while I'm out there. So
you've got a lot of books recently. Do you want to hit the next line?
Sure. When he knows how to pray, how to love, how to hope.
This is a callback. This is a callback to the first line.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a callback to faith, hope, and courage. You know, how to pray. Well, everybody. I've always been of the opinion that everybody should pray in their own way, right? And whatever you consider prayer to be, that should be for you. You don't have to be crammed into a church to pray. You know, it's your way of speaking with deity, right? And there should be, I don't know how to put it, you know, there should be that personal connection to it, right? It shouldn't just be, you know, our Father who art in heaven. There should be,
but that's a form of prayer too.
It.
Some people use that as their prayer as well.
I know, but there's a deeper element to prayer, in my opinion.
I mean, we can't go down that rabbit hole too far, but I could have an argument for both sides of that if we need to go down. There's different goals, different objectives with different types of praying. There's like the invocations where you're calling for a specific thing, and then there's like an Our Father's like a resynchronization. You're synchronizing with the tenets. Right. The teaching or whatever. So there's various things that reason people would use more of like a mantra, where it's just like a repeated prayer, compared to a off the cuff one, or just a common one. Like there's a lot of. We can't go down that rabbit hole. That's gonna be too long.
I feel like when we'll make it brief. I feel like when he says how to pray, he means how to pray on that personal level.
I would say I don't disagree, but I would say I think he's referencing how some people forget how to pray or don't know how to pray at all, whether that be a personal prayer, a regular prayer, or a pre-written common prayer. There's like a discomfort. And I can say, like, when I was in college and I'd gone through my rock and roll atheist phase, which was a great time, as I was figuring out life, when I came back into spirituality, it took me a while to remember how to do it. Like I was like it feels like you're talking to yourself. Like it takes a while to get in the right mindset. So I think that's kind of what he's referencing with how to pray, then how to love, and how to hope. Basically means like these are high-minded things.
Right. Well, and I think the how to love and the how to hope are really the big ones to unpack, right? Because, you know, everything pretty much points us in the direction of, you know, you should try to do your best because it's completely impossible for almost all of us. But you should try your best to love unconditionally, right? And love your fellow man, you know, the same way you hope to love yourself, as we discussed earlier. The how to hope, though, I think is the hardest one. In the darkest of times, how do you maintain hope?
And you remember the old forgotten joys when you hear the laugh of a little child. I do think that he's kind of using a lot of the stuff. This is kind of trying to capture in small sentence a lot of the stuff he was explaining in the previous ones, where he's like, here's ways that I find hope. I find hope in the woods looking at the beauty of flowers. I find hope when I see goodness in people, even though I understand how to love them as well. And so I think a lot of this is him teasing out from his other ones ways that he finds hope and love too. But how does one find
I would
hope?
agree, but right. But how do you find that? Right? What is your personal way of finding hope? And like, so, he's saying you've come to a point in your life where you know how to do it, right?
Like,
Because this is when is a man a Mason? And he says, when he knows how to pray, how to love, how to hope. So he's saying that you're a Mason when you know how to hope. So you found your place. You figured that out, right?
well, and on top of that, with his ministry background, he could be referencing a hope in eternal life. That's a common trend that they
That
throw
too.
into.
Yeah.
But I could probably go with how to pray or with faith. Yeah, you know how I find hope? I'm so ADHD that I just forget that the bad thing happened, and it just goes on to the next thing. I'm like a hamster on a wheel, man. It just goes away. So that's how I get it,
wish
dude.
I could do that.
I just
I wish
completely,
I could do that.
as long as I'm absent of it for like 3 to 5 days, it just like leaves my mind for long periods of time.
No,
It's great. So I keep my hope up, baby.
I wish. Can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah, you have to have a chemical issue, dude. Can't help you with that. Maybe if you get in a car crash and get some brain damage, we can get you there.
All right, sounds like a good idea. I will
start-
shoot for that.
I'll just start hitting you. We could do some hammer experiments. I'll just hit you with a hammer a couple of times, see if it gives you hope. Doctor's like, what are you guys doing? Are you serious? Like, I'm trying to make him ADHD like me. It's like, this isn't how this works. You can't just hit him with a hammer. You're like, well, I don't remember anymore.
Hey, for me personally, I do find hope in a few different places. I do find it when I have those self-reflection times out there in the woods and stuff like that, or on the motorcycle. But where I really tend to find hope is when I've found somebody who is better than me and can inspire me and gives me hope that there is good and promising things in the world. I tend to find hope in people.
That's awesome. Are you sure you don't want the hammer?
The hammer would probably be easier, honestly.
No, I agree. I think people give others hope too. And I think as a Mason, you should give that to others so that you can inspire people as you've been inspired as well, for sure.
Agreed.
All right. We got to keep moving just because it's getting late, but I'll get the next line going for
Right.
us here. Oh, God, this one's going to be deep too. When he has kept faith with himself, with his fellow man, and with his God, in his hand a sword for evil, in his heart a bit of a song, glad to live, but not afraid to die. Oh, boy.
Ooh.
Actually, one of my favorite lines of this whole poem, I've always liked the juxtaposition. In his hand, a sword for evil. In his heart, a bit of a song. I was like, what? Like the quick turn. He likes to do these quick turns where he turns on you. He's ready to fight evil with his hand, but in his heart, he's thinking abuse, beauty still. And you're like, so he's not like stoked on having a sword in his hand. He's got a bit of a song in his heart.
Right. Well, and he's like, I mean, hearkening back to our last episode with Brian, all I can think of when I heard this line / I'm reading this line right now is talking about Nathan Hale and my greatest regret is I have but one life to give for my country. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm glad to live, but I'm not afraid to die and wish I would do it all again if I could. Right.
Yeah. It's tough. Like, so like, if you look at the front, when he has kept faith with himself, with his fellow man, with his God, so it means like he's lived a trusty life, right? He's been true to his word, not only to himself, he's done it with his peers, and he stayed in good graces with his deity or his divinity.
Right.
So this is him getting prepared to die, right? This is how it sounds. Like he's like this is like the degree, right? And he goes, in his hand a sword for evil. So we talked about the sword as usually a reference in of justice, right? So he's prepared
Yep.
to have courage to fight for justice against injustice. But then in his heart, he's still carrying a bit of a song, which I think is hope again. So even when he's facing bad, hard things, he's still keeping himself high-minded.
He's at peace. He's at peace with his life because he's lived the best life he could. So while he doesn't want to stop living, he's at peace with the way it's gone and is therefore ready to die.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how it kind of ends. But I think in the middle there, it's saying on that journey, he's found a way to have courage and fight justice, but still keep himself happy and high-minded, which made him prepared that he knows that he's done good with everybody and deity. He's still willing to do more, but he's keeping himself not in a high-minded state, and he's happy to live, but he's not afraid of death anymore.
Right. He's humbling himself before the idea of death and humbling himself before the life he lived, in that he knows he's lived a good life. So he's okay with the he can live with the outcome of dying.
Yeah, it's somebody who's lived a life of integrity, courage, hopefulness, and joy, that's willing to stand against evil, but also still holds love in their heart, but is unafraid of death because they have nothing to regret.
Right.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
God damn.
Right. Let's move on to the last line then. Such a man has found the only real secret of Masonry, and the one which it is trying to give to all the world. Live a good life.
I love this poem. It
So
basically
do I.
goes, it goes, if you guys are searching for all these secrets, here they are. Live
Right.
a life that you that you do good by everybody, including your friends, yourself, and God. Be willing to stand up for others, but always hold love in your heart, and live a life respected and die regretted. There's your secret. And you're like, wow, okay.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that sums up the whole thing better than I possibly could. The only one, which is kind of a cliche line that has been out there for a long time. I believe it's an old Native American thing, is when you were born you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die
The world
you
cries.
rejoice. The world cries and you rejoice. Yeah.
I love it. I love this poem. And that's why, literally, if anyone wants to join me in this tradition, on July 25th, which is next Friday, we'll try to post a link. Or sorry, July 21st, I should say, which is next Monday. I have a reminder on my phone. I can see it on my calendar. There's a YouTube video of someone reading it. And I listen to it at the end of the day as the sun sets on that day and once a year. And it helps me. I know you guys heard it a bunch today, but in 5 days, if you want to do it on the same day as me, I'll be listening to it again because it helps me reground myself in the beauty of our humble fraternity and what a Mason should be striving to be and to do without losing your way in all the trappings of the mundane
Agreed.
version of Masonry. To remember the high-minded
Agreed.
version.
And I'm going to assume a link to that YouTube video will be in the show notes.
Yes. Yes, I will remember.
This way everybody can easily find it.
Yeah, I'll put a link. There's a bunch out there. The Scottish Rite Northern Jurisdiction, just read it recently. I have a favorite video, though, where I like the narrator does a good job. And there's a video that accompanies it that kind of reminds me of the Not a Man, a Mason campaign, where it's those corny, a guy holding a sword staring at another guy, and then a songbird. And you're
Right.
like, yeah. A muddy puddle,
I'll put
and
it
then
out
a
there for
scary guy.
everybody.
Yeah, I'll put it out there.
Or at least send me the link, because now I want to see it.
I'll send it out to everybody. I'll put it in the Discord too. After the
All right,
episode,
perfect.
I don't want them to. Oh, thank God the YouTube is muted, or is going to play in like a weird video randomly into the recorder. But yeah, any final thoughts that you have on this bad boy? I love this poem. I think I've said enough about it.
I think we summed it up pretty well with what we said there at the end. So I'm just going to leave it there and remind people to follow us on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. That's primarily where we post. And if you ever want to reach out, it's timeforfellowship@gmail.com.
And check us out on Discord. Unless you said that. I was looking up a YouTube video.
Nope, I did not say Discord. So good call.
It's in the show
that.
notes. I hang out in there. Matt doesn't
Yep.
but I do sometimes. Anyways.
I do when I can.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.